Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Chapin, Director of Workforce Development at the Westchester County Association. Welcome to our chat about U.S. Census jobs. Before we get started, I want to thank our Platinum sponsors, as well as Westchester County Economic Development and nonprofit Westchester for supporting this event. I'd also like to mention that many nonprofit jobs are listed on Nonprofit Westchester's website, and that's npwestchester.org. And there are other jobs available at the New York Hire Now website. And I also want to thank a lot of our partners who made this possible, and many of their students are participating in the event as well as alumni. So we have Berkeley College, the College of Westchester, Fordham University, Iona College, Manhattanville College, Mercy College, Monroe College, Pace University, Purchase College, St. Thomas Aquinas College, Westchester Community College, as well as Dominican College, Southern Westchester, Putnam Northern Westchester, and Rockland BOCES, and Westchester County Workforce Board and their career centers for partnering with us. It's a great group, represents a lot of students and alums and job seekers. I'm so glad they could be part of this. And now it's time for the main event. It is my great pleasure to introduce Asaph Boldgett, who is Supervisory Recruiter with the New York Regional Census Center, and Zachary Lange, Census Response Representative. Hi, guys.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Hello. Thank you for having us as well.
Thanks for joining us. All right. So this is going to be a great event. We've got a lot of great information. I'm glad you can share it with our viewers. And viewers, you also have the opportunity to ask some questions. So if you go to the bottom of the screen, type in your questions. We'll get to them a little bit later, and we'll try and answer as many of them as possible. So let's start with the big question. Asaph, why is the U.S. Census such a big deal?
The U.S. Census is a very big deal. Ever since 1790, our country has counted every person in it. So this is the 24th time we'll be doing this here in 2020. And it's important because the census provides really critical data that is used by business owners, teachers, lawmakers, even students. You might use census data in some of your assignments. And also, every year, like billions of dollars in federal funding go to funding things like hospitals, fire departments, schools, roads. There's a host of other resources that are funded based on the census data. And also, very importantly, the results of the census help to determine the number of seats each state will have in the U.S. House of Representatives. And they're used to draw congressional and state legislative districts. So this count that we're doing this year is very, very important. It's monumental, and we need your help to make sure that every individual is counted in our nation.
Wow, so it's not a big deal, it's a really big deal. Okay.
Really big deal.
Yeah, a really big deal. Okay, that's great. So, Asaph, how did you end up working for the U.S. Census?
Well, I had it on my mind to work for the census for a while. My mom, actually, way back when, worked for the census as an enumerator, or what we could now call a census taker. So she was knocking on doors in her community, making sure that everyone was counted. So I was working on a contract with the city that was coming to an end back in 2018, and I saw that there was an opportunity for me to work at the Census Bureau at the New York Regional Census Center. So I simply applied and submitted my application, got a phone call, went in for an interview, and got a job offer, and I've been here ever since. And it's been a great pleasure to actually kind of start at the beginning, where we first started to really organize and plan out our recruiting approach for our region. And our region stretches from New Jersey up to Maine and all the states in between, plus Puerto Rico. So it's a big region, a big responsibility, but it's been a lot of fun, and I've learned a lot. Great.
All right. And Zach, tell us what made you want to work for the U.S. Census.
So I was coming out of college in 2018. I was struggling to find a job and whatnot, and I always wanted to get some resume experience, hands-on experience in the sector. And I also viewed this as a good way to help my community and give back, and that's what led me to apply. I saw the posting on Indeed, and then that's when I applied. And then also another big thing that stuck out at me was the pay for my area, and that made me jump at that opportunity, not only to knock out some student loan debt at the same time, but also to get that federal experience on the resume.
All right, so let's talk about the application process and training, and then we'll also ask Asaph a little bit more about the pay. So Asaph, can you tell us about the application process and the training that everyone goes through?
Sure. So the application process, we tried this year to make it as straightforward and as easy as possible. So this is the first year where we've had the entire application and assessment take place online. So you can go to 2020census.gov/jobs. You can submit your application. It should only take you about 30 minutes to get through the application and assessment process. And if you're interested in more supervisory positions and to be considered for them, you'll have to answer a couple additional questions that should only take about 10 additional minutes. So altogether, I encourage you to visit the site now, submit your application. Should only take you 40 minutes tops to get through it. But if you run into any issues or any questions about the application, you can contact us. We have staff who are available to provide some assistance for you. Just call us at 1-855-562-2020. All right. And if you select option 1, when you make that call, you'll be routed to a technical help desk. And if you select option 3 and then enter in your zip code, then you'll be routed to the area census office in your area where they can provide more specific information about the opportunities in your area. And for Westchester County, the area census office is in Peekskill. So,
all right, that's very good to know, because I think because of the pandemic, there was probably a lot of things that had to quickly change, and that may have put a pause on some of the applications going through the process. But it's my understanding that originally the census jobs were going to go through July, and then it was pushed to October, and now these jobs are through December.
Yes, things were pushed back due to the pandemic. Right now, we're gearing up to make most of our selections for our biggest operation of the census, where we'll need the most people, which is what we call the non-response follow-up operation. So this is the operation where we go and knock on doors to make sure that those who have not already responded and completed their census questionnaire complete it. So we're going to be starting that up now in August. August 11th is the date that we have right now. Knock on wood. Hopefully that doesn't change and there are no more surprises this year in 2020. So given that August is quickly approaching, if you're interested in working for the census, I suggest you apply now. Apply today. Make sure your application is in there so that you can be considered, because we want to have enough time for you to go through the background check process, for you to complete your training. And training is paid. It usually lasts no more than a week, 5 days maximum. So yeah, please apply right away so that you can get through the background check process, complete your training, and be ready to go when that operation approaches.
All right, so I want to ask Zach, what was your experience with the application process and the training?
So my experience with the process was I applied back in October of 2018, and because things were just getting started with the operations, I was able to hear back fairly quickly compared to most people who've had to probably wait months and sometimes over a year. But my I waited about a month for my initial phone call and fingerprints, and then after that was done, I got my training call in last January, and I went to training, and that was in person. But I know with all the COVID situation going on, I know the Census Bureau is looking to limit the exposure of in-class training, so that will probably be done on a virtual basis as they see appropriate as much as possible.
All right, that's helpful information. So, Asaph, you've been at this for a while. Tell me what you enjoy most about the job.
Well, throughout my career, I've really enjoyed helping people. And, you know, I don't mean to sound like, I don't know, cliche about this, but, you know, I've worked in workforce development before I joined the Census Bureau. And really, the thing that I like most is helping people who need employment, need to better themselves, need to pick themselves up, find jobs, hopefully find careers, and find themselves to help themselves and their families. So the Census Bureau has not only offered me an opportunity to do that, but also to help my country, which is pretty awesome. The Census Bureau is the largest peacetime operation that the federal government employs a workforce for. So to be a part of this in 2020 is just amazing. It's the most I guess critical thing that I've been involved in terms of my career, in terms of a job that really means something to my nation, and it's exciting. And I really enjoy helping people to join us, to get on board, to provide them the assistance that they need to complete their applications, and train them in some circumstances, and get them on board with us. So it's been awesome.
I sense your passion. Zach, tell me what you enjoy most about what you do, and tell us a little bit more about what you do.
So to piggyback off what Asaph said, you know, a lot of this, I get the joy and pleasure of being able to help people and and do a big thing for this, play an important role in helping my country in a critical mission that will benefit everyone going forward for the next 10 years in this particular count and for every subsequent census. So I have gotten to enjoy the pleasure of meeting all kinds of people and help my public speaking skills and all that, and it's done wonders for me as a person. So as a census response representative, we are helping to help people who need assistance with their census forms, and we will help them walk them through that thing. And if they need that one-on-one assistance, we can gladly help them do that through our devices and whatnot. And right now, as things are a little quieter, we're helping with the partnership specialist with their roles in identifying low response tract areas and identifying possible strategies and ways to bolster those areas where responses are lacking in the communities.
All right, so now we got to get into some of the other important areas. So we know that there are hundreds of thousands of census workers across the country that are doing this incredibly important work. And the more people who complete the census, the more money that goes to those areas to provide valuable resources and services. So let's talk about Westchester. Asaph, if you could tell us how many open positions there are in Westchester, and tell us what those positions pay, and if there are any other benefits or any travel that's reimbursed, anything else that someone would want to know.
Well, we suspect that we're going to need approximately 1,500 people in Westchester County alone. to help us to complete this task. So we have a lot more recruiting to do. We need a lot more help. Most of the positions will be in the field, in the communities, knocking on doors, making sure that everyone who hasn't responded to the census questionnaire already responds and gets interviewed. But we also have other positions such as the role that Zach holds as a census response representative, basically working with partner organizations, maybe such as the WCA, and helping individuals and participants who work within your organization who may need help with their census questionnaires, get those completed. We also have roles. We have, as I mentioned before, we have an office in Peekskill where we have support staff. We have clerks there. And we also, if one is interested in a supervisory role, we have office operations supervisors who oversee clerks in the office. And we also have census field supervisors who oversee a group of census takers in the field as well. And those supervisory roles, by the way, pay $25.50 an hour. If you're interested in one of those, I encourage you to apply. So in a nutshell, if you apply at 2020census.gov/jobs, you could be considered for all 5 of those positions if you complete the supervisory assessment.
All right. I know that there are a lot of questions coming in, and we're going to get to those in just a minute. Just one thing that I noticed when I went to the website, just to clarify for some people, we're talking about U.S. 2020 census jobs. There are some other census jobs that are ongoing, and there aren't as many opportunities there. But when you are applying and you're interested in the 2020 census jobs, make sure you use the website that we're posting on the screen, and then that's all the information that we're providing to help you with your application. Okay, so let's see if we have a few questions from the audience that we can get some great answers. The first one is, what are the minimum number of hours you need to work, and how often would you need to go to the Peekskill office? Asaph, do you have the answer for that question?
Well, in terms of the number of minimum hours, it really all depends on what the response rates are in your community, and hence basically the workload that will be in your community. I have to say that most of our jobs will be part-time for enumerators, where you'll be working basically in the evenings and on weekends. So I always encourage a person, if they have a full-time job, they could certainly still be considered and be hired for us on these operations. Because if you're working during the day and you have your evenings and weekends free, you can join us. So if you're only available 10 hours a week, you're only available 5 hours a week, I still encourage you, please apply. There may be an opportunity for you to join us and make $23 for each of those hours of that week. I also forgot to add that we also do provide mileage. It's 57.5 cents per mile for your traveling costs. So even if you work on this operation on a part-time basis, you can suspect to make a good amount of money, which is helpful.
Yeah, well, I'll say if you're making $23 an hour, you're working 10 hours a week, that's $230 a week, more than nothing. And so if you increase your hours, increase your pay. And as Zach mentioned, that'll help you pay down student loans. And we're talking about, these jobs are for anybody who's 18 or older. So it could be for students, it could be for others who are looking for additional work in order to make some additional money. And as you both pointed out so well, these are important jobs and jobs that you really enjoy doing. So Zach, how was it for you in terms of creating your own schedule? Was it easy? Have you been able to, get the schedule you wanted?
Pretty much. All along, the stress was emphasis on the flexibility of that. As a recruiting assistant before the position merged to a census response representative, it was pretty, you would just tell your supervisor, manager, your availability, and and then that's how it would go. And if you just needed to take time off, you just tell them that, and so they know. And everything has been pretty flexible with creating your schedule and whatnot.
And one thing I
so
forgot to add,
go ahead.
I didn't answer the second part of that question, is how you reporting to the office. So basically, we want to hire individuals to work and support the communities that they live in. I mean, that's the number one goal. So if you're not hired to become a clerk or an office operations supervisor, you're going to be working within your community. So say if you live in, I don't know, in Yonkers. If you live in Yonkers, most of your work is going to be in the city of Yonkers. So you wouldn't have to come up to the Peekskill office necessarily to report there. So our goal is to count everyone in the United States. And a big part of making sure that every community is touched is by hiring people who live in each of these communities. So hopefully that answers the second part of that question too.
All right. Thank you for the second part answer. All right. Here's the next question. Are all these jobs face-to-face, or some of these positions remote work? Asaph.
All right. Well, I have to say that, most of the positions that we are hiring for are going to be in the public. I can tell you that the Census Bureau has taken several safety measures, such as securing PPE and sanitizer for field and office staff. We've developed mandatory COVID-19 training outlining steps for staying safe while performing field duties. Of course, practicing social distancing. And also we're doing our best to maximize as much telework as possible. So these times are unprecedented really right now. But the Census Bureau is committed to protecting the health and safety of all of our employees, and also the American public. I mean, those are top priorities for us. But yes, most of the opportunities will be in public. But again, we're doing everything that we can to maximize security and safety for our employees.
All right, let's get to some more questions. Are there any education requirements for census takers? I know Zach graduated from college. He's got more than enough qualifications, but Asaph, if you could tell us what the requirements are for the positions.
There are no education requiremms for the position. An individual simply has to be at least 18 years old to be considered. However, you don't have to be 18 to apply, but you need to be 18 years old at the time of your selection to be considered and hired with the Census Bureau. But with regards to education, no, we don't have a minimum requirement. Yeah.
All right, and Zach, you mentioned how the job has given you a great opportunity to enhance your public speaking skills and some other skills. What are the skills that you had coming into the position that you've been able to use that have been very helpful?
I would say leadership and mentoring, as is one of on my recruiting assistant team, CRR team, I've been able to mentor and be a leader to my fellow colleagues and coworkers because of my long experience as a census field worker, and I've been able to help them out wherever the situation arises and use that leadership and mentoring experience that I've got through college and my various roles I've gained through that, and use that in my census roles to date.
So that's great. You had some skill sets that you brought into the job, and you've acquired some additional skills, so you have a bigger skill set.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's go to some other questions. Next question is, do you need to be a Westchester County resident to apply? I think I know the answer to this question, but Asaph, if you could give us your answer, I'd appreciate it.
No, you do not have to be a Westchester County resident to apply. But again, if you are applying from a neighboring county, you may be selected for for a different office outside of Peekskill. The Peekskill office covers Putnam and Westchester counties. If you are hired outside of there, such as up in Dutchess or over in Ulster or a neighboring county, you may be considered for the Pauling office, which is in Pauling, New York. But again, most of the jobs will be you'll be working within the community that you live in. So there may be no need for you to have to report and drive a long way to an office unless you are selected and are interested in a role within the office.
Okay, next question. If we apply today, would we start work in August or sooner or later? When would the person start if they applied today? You want to take that one, Asaph?
I'll tackle it. So basically, when an individual applies for the Census Bureau, we want to allow there to be enough time for them to complete the background check process. So we usually give an individual, somewhere between 30 to 60 days to complete the whole background check process before they start training and before they start out into the field. So we do have other operations that are going on besides the non-response follow-up operation. We also have employees who are working in our offices. So you may be considered for one of those roles, and you may start your work earlier before the non-response follow-up operation begins. But again, out of those 1,500 people that we need for Westchester County, the vast majority will be census takers. And that the biggest operation that we have, non-response follow-up, does begin August 11th. So you would begin with your paid training typically a week or two prior to that August 11th date.
And a quick follow-up, Asaph. So somebody who is who needs to do a background check, is that done by a third party? You tell them how they have to complete that part of the application. And so depending on who's doing the background check, that doesn't necessarily have to take 30 or 60 days. That could happen a lot faster.
It could certainly happen a lot faster, but we like to give an individual enough time that, if they're asked for certain information that they have to go get, they have enough time to do that and to complete that. But if you are selected and then you go to your fingerprinting appointment and you get all the information that we need for the FBI to process the fingerprints and all of that stuff, then you could hypothetically start another position earlier. But we do leave that window there just to make sure that if you do not provide all the information that our investigative services team needs, that there is enough time for you to get it to them for you to be fully considered for one of the other positions.
Right. So this question is for Zach. Can you please describe what the actual work entails? What's a typical day like?
So the actual work will entail you will be given a certain caseload assignments for your neighborhood and community that you may need to do, and you will be given a government-issued smartphone, and you will have those those cases that you need to work in your neighborhood, and it will tell you the addresses and where to go, and then you will just complete that. Once you're at a particular address, you will go to that household and do the interview with the person. If they're not home, you'll mark that as a not home, and then you'll return up to 3 times, I believe, is my understanding, and
Yes.
Try your best to make your best effort to make contact with them. If not, then there's the possibility or an option to try to get that information from a neighbor as well through a proxy. that's pretty much what a work day entails. You would just tell your supervisor that you need your work availability, and then they would assign the work for you based on your availability for the particular day. And if you're feeling unsafe or whatnot in a certain situation, you would also tell your supervisor that, and then that can be noted down accordingly in your device. So, because the Census Bureau places a high emphasis on your safety, so you're not going into any dangerous or risky situations that make you feel uncomfortable.
All right, so Zach, I got to follow up because I think that you have all the training you need. You have the identification. A lot of people know that this is the time when we're doing the U.S. Census. So are there a lot of instances where you go to someone's house, they answer the door, they see you with the U.S. Census, and they are very receptive, they're very welcoming, they're very happy to cooperate and provide information because they want to participate in the census?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's good to know. Okay. We have a few more questions. The next question: what is the turnaround in terms of days to get hired once you complete the application? So we talked a little bit about this before. It depends on how quickly the background check takes place. But Asaph, if you could tell us the best case scenario, is it a couple weeks, 3 weeks?
Well, one thing I really need to differentiate with is between being selected for a position and then actually being hired. So that 60-day window is between when you are selected and you know that you got the job. You've been called, you go through the brief interview over the phone, and you are selected and hired. Then you begin your fingerprint appointment. So typically, the turnaround time from once you complete your application to when you be selected for the position, it really does vary, but at this point in time, since we're approaching so quickly towards the end, you can expect to hear sooner rather than later. So, I don't really want to put a date on it, but just given the urgency and how many individuals we need in Westchester County, I would suspect that you would hear back from a member of our team very quickly once you completed the application process. Now, you can always follow up with us if you have not heard anything. You can either log back into your application to check the status, or if you have any questions about the application, you can give us a call. Again, that number is 1-855-562-2020. Select option 3, and then enter in your zip code, and you'll be routed to the area census office, just as it says below. And we'll be happy to provide you some assistance if we're maybe missing something from your application, or if you have any follow-up questions for you. You can give us a call and we can look into that for you. But again, we need quite a few people for Westchester County. We need more people to apply. So I suspect that the turnaround time between you completing your application and then being selected will be fairly quick.
All right. And Asaph, I heard you mention earlier that the next stage and the big stage of the census taking starts around August 11th. So there's plenty of time to start the application process, and you're more than likely to get approved well before August 11th and complete all of your training so that you can participate in that important stage of the census taking. Okay, next question. Are there positions for college students who will be returning to school in late August? So somebody who has, whether it's a part-time or full-time schedule with courses, is there also an opportunity for them to go to school and to be a census taker through the fall? Asaph.
Absolutely. Again, our operation does begin August 11th, and typically our operations will last about 6 weeks. Somewhere between 6 to 8 weeks, again, depending on the workload. So there may very well be an opportunity when you come back to school to join us at that time. But again, I encourage folks to get your application in now, sooner rather than later, because again, we try to make our selections in that up to 60-day window, 30 to 60 days, to make sure that the background check process and everything goes through. So please apply today.
All right. So just a quick thought there. We know that a lot of students who are going to college already have or they are looking for a part-time or a full-time job. So this is really no different. This is just working for the U.S. Census versus someone else. Okay, Zach, we got another question for you. Do you need to have access to a car to work for the census?
Well, you don't need a car per se, but as long as you have some access to some transportation, whether it's public transportation or your own vehicle, that is acceptable. But for the most part, it's not necessarily a car. But as long as you're able to get where you need to go in the community, you should be able to complete the job successfully.
Okay, we've got 3 more questions. The next question, I work for a not-for-profit organization serving injustice-bound youth ages 18 to 24. What does the background check consist of? So maybe Asaph, you can answer that one?
Sure. So basically, the job offer, again, it's all contingent on your background check. And the background check, it checks and reviews criminal records as part of assessing applicants' past conduct and suitability for employment. So basically, all candidates will receive a tentative offer for jobs, and they go through a pre-appointment process, we call it. So we require all individuals to be fingerprinted so that you could set up your own fingerprinting appointments once you are selected. And then we'll submit also an electronic image of the fingerprints to the FBI's Criminal Justice Information Services Division. And the FBI database is then searched to see if the prints are associated with a criminal record. Now, candidates, again, we provide that window to provide an opportunity to correct any inaccuracies and provide information requested by Census Investigative Services. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Complete your fingerprint process. And again, all candidates who are selected are required to complete fingerprints in order to be considered for the positions.
Okay, thank you. We have just a few more. How long is the on-site training per day? Why don't we go to Zach? How long was your training?
So my training was over 3 days, and it was a 9 to 4 kind of deal. So that's what kind of training you will expect. You can expect.
And I should also mention that that's in classroom. We also typically have a component that's virtual as well. But yeah, in classroom, it's typically a full day, a full series of days.
I think, Asaph, you said this is the 24th census, so I think a lot of this has already been thought through and well planned. So yes, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, I think we have one more question, and then I have another question for both of you. Are there jobs, careers available after December 31st, 2020? If so, what do they do? And I think we talked briefly about how there are other census jobs, not decennial census jobs, not 2020 census jobs, but other work that the census does throughout the year, every year. And Asaph, if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. The Census Bureau does many other surveys year-round. So there are opportunities to join other parts of the Census Bureau to work on things outside of the decennial. So you would simply just have to visit census.gov and then navigate to their employment page, and you can submit your application that way. But unfortunately, my knowledge is limited basically to the decennial positions. But I do know again that we do other surveys, and that you would have to apply a different way to be considered for those roles. And most of the positions are for survey takers. Basically doing a similar thing that you would do as a census taker for the decennial, except you may be asking different types of questions and handling other types of surveys.
All right, so I asked a bunch of questions. The viewers gave us a bunch of great questions, and I have one final question for both of you, and I want to start with Zach. We've covered a lot of territory, but we may have missed something. Is there anything else that you would like viewers to know about what you do or the overall 2020 census that you think we haven't covered that you want them to know?
So I think we covered our bases pretty well on the decennial, but I just want to remind everyone, if you still haven't completed your census, you can do so at my2020census.gov. And if you don't have the code that you received in the mail, you can also just simply go and input your address and fill out your census there. Also, you can call 844-330-2020, and someone from the hours of 7 a.m. Eastern to 2 a.m. Eastern will be able to walk you through completing your census questionnaire.
Okay, Asaph, anything else you want to add that we haven't covered yet?
No, I think Zach covered everything well that I was going to mention. Just to reiterate, that's why we're all here. That's why we're doing the work that we're doing, is to make sure that everyone completes their questionnaire. So if you're listening to this, if you're watching this video and you have not completed your questionnaire yet, please go right now to my2020census.gov and complete your census questionnaire right away.
So this is also an important topic that everybody should be discussing with every interaction they have for the next few days and weeks. They need to make sure all the family members have taken the census, all of their friends as well, to spread the word about the US 2020 census jobs, so that nobody is unaware of the job opportunities as well as the importance of taking the US Census. Okay, Asaph and Zach, you guys have been great. You've shared a lot of incredible information, valuable information, and I expect you to get a lot of applications and to have a lot more people join you in this great endeavor. So thank you again, and I want to remind the viewers that this is recorded. It's going to be available on demand. If there's anything that you didn't fully catch that you want to hear again, and if you want to let others know about this, they can view the chat on demand as well. So thank you guys, great job. And also I want to let our viewers know, if you want to know about other upcoming events with the Westchester County Association, please like our Facebook page and also our LinkedIn page, so you know about some other things coming up. And I also want to thank our Platinum sponsors, as well as our other partners and all the viewers for joining us here today. Thanks, everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you.